So, I'm going to start with a summary of the 5 keys to innovation, and then I'm going to go back through each of them. And we'll move pretty quickly, and then we'll do Q&A, okay? So, here's the 5 of them. First, innovators follow unconventional wisdom. A lot of the rules of the game get changed when you get involved in the innovation process. Secondly, change by most people who are involved in innovation is seen as an ally, as your partner, rather than an adversary, rather than something that's threatening. So partnering with change is a core element and ingredient in all innovators. Thirdly, the desire is to invent a solution rather than to look for a pre-existing solution. So you're not only trying to restate the problem, but you're also not willing to accept pre-existing solutions. Even if you try to combine pre-existing solutions, it doesn't always yield the essential breakthrough that takes you and your endeavor, your company, your project to that next level where it's either marketable or sellable or memorable. Fourth, they take smart risks. We always talk about entrepreneurs as having to be flexible and innovators as having to be able to not be risk averse. But our data is very clear that when you look at innovators, the ability to sort through the various kinds and levels of risk, to do the due diligence that would seem more logical and anal perhaps than you would associate normally with the eccentric innovator somewhere out there in the world, that this is an absolutely core ingredient, taking smart risks. And lastly, a distinction that I think probably would be of interest to many of you, because I know you run companies and you oversee others and you have to, those who are responsible to you. And that is, this was surprising to us, there's a difference between leading a company of innovators and building a culture of innovation. So you'll hear me saying all the time, I'm talking about innovators and the process that innovators use as separate from innovation, which is usually focusing on what's the end product, what was the innovation, and then people will back up from it and describe this or that ingredient that led to this new breakthrough, this new element. But I'm interested in a process because I believe that innovation is everybody's everyday job. It's innovation with a small I. When you are involved in innovation as a project and around other innovators, I can't stress enough how important it is to surround yourself with people who have complementary strengths rather than trying to shore up your weaknesses and catch up. The data is very clear that we have, all of us, certain sets of strengths. And it will, generally speaking, from our data, slow the innovation process down if you spend a lot of your time trying to get yourself to where you can do everything. And in innovation, being a jack of all trades is not an admirable ability. So innovation is usually a team sport, and the ability to do it by knowing your own strengths and weaknesses, and then bringing people along with you into your team, into your network, who know what their strengths are, and your strengths complement one another, is a very, very vital part of the whole innovation process. If you'll start by leading a company of innovators, it can yield a culture of innovation. One of the things our data showed very clearly is that if you don't pay as much attention to the barriers to innovation as you do to the desire to be more innovative, you have a much lower chance of bringing your idea to fruition. You follow that? You understand what that would mean and entail? So the more you can anticipate the pushback, the resistance, the blocks, and deal with them and figure out ways around them, or bring in others who know how to help you get through these various impasses. The most common one on everybody's mind, of course, is how do I get funding? But that's only one of several. There are legal issues, there are technology issues, there are licensing issues, and so on. There are colleagues who put a pie in your face every time you mention something about your new idea. These are all barriers and obstacles that have to be dealt with. I want to take a moment to look at the 3 barriers to innovation as we've found them. If you think of it this way, it goes from personal level to interpersonal level to organizational level. These are the things that stifle innovation and the work of innovators. Fear, ranging from the psychological elements of the fear of failure, to the fear of succeeding, to the fear of not knowing what's next, and so on. Fear blocks innovation, and it's usually on a personal level. The good news is you can do a lot to eradicate that fear. My mom used to say, you can change your life in an afternoon. I never knew what that meant until I got much older, and one afternoon I made some basic changes just in my own pea brain, and things changed. Well, imagine that. So y'all can do that too. Secondly, fire hosing. So fire hosing is usually done to you. It's a colleague, it's your boss, it's your banker. They hear about what you're trying to do and immediately say, that's, more power to you, but about 3 years ago, somebody else tried to do this, that, the other. It's you look out the window here at the post office. I understand that building's been around a while. There were a lot of people trying to get into it or buy it or do this or that with it. And so there was probably a lot of fire hosing over the years to various ideas with regards to that building. Eventually, somebody figures out a way to counteract that, to work around it, to make an opportunity present itself that's a win-win, etc. So fire hosing is something that all of us can do less of to others and be much more responsive as we go along in the process of innovation. And then lastly, sacred cows. These are the 3 or 4 P's of any organization: the politics, the policies, the procedures, all of these things that may or may not be conducive to, let alone encouraging innovation. And our research has shown that when it comes to the sacred cows of an organization, they are rarely questioned, and they're usually obsolete. It's a lethal combination. So it behooves you to, when you hit a barrier, or as an organization, as you're developing and ramping up and getting to different phases, that you re-examine the existing rules of the game. Structural rules, strategic plans, succession plans, et cetera, financing, all of that. You have opportunities to re-examine that all the time. Let me take a moment to talk about, if you're going to hire for innovators, what do you look for? From our data, there's these 3 things. There's several other things, but at the base of it are these 3 things. If you're going to look to hire somebody on the front end, they have these 3 qualities big time. First, they're able to look for fresh ideas and bring some fresh ideas, and they have, well, it's not a very scientific term, fresh eyes. And by that I mean they have a certain energy and a certain ability to look at something in a slightly unfamiliar to you way, perhaps. It's a little bit askew, a little bit out of the norm. And in the hiring process, as you ask some questions, ask for some examples that they have in their own experience, and have to even be in the workplace, of where they've actually sort of figured something out, solved a problem, took a new perspective on something. Secondly, if you're hiring, I can't emphasize enough the importance of somebody who is by nature a good collaborator. Someone who is a loner, strong-willed, driven. There is a role for that person at certain phases in the process of innovation in our research, but as a general principle, trust and collaboration are absolutely crucial to developing a team that can not only create a single result or product, but I think what we're all interested in is, how do you sustain it? You come through a process and you develop the first new widget, but then what? And increasingly, in the venture capital community, for example, they're looking for sustainability as much as they are a new idea. So you have to be mindful of that. So these are a couple of things. And then thirdly, this sort of ability to be very ingenious in gathering resources. I think I already sense in this community, in Northwest Arkansas, this is what you guys are really good at. You already do this intuitively. You're networking. You have this sense that you're all in this together. You don't see this in a lot of other places, I'll tell you. But if you put your resources together and you work collectively, so you're not competitors, you're all in this together, you have a much greater chance of all of you succeeding if all of you collaborate. Does that make sense to y'all? Yes. Okay. I really appreciate all your attention and your questions, and so I thank you very much.